I'm not dating Kevin Costner, to start with. I've known Kevin Costner for perhaps 30 years, and if we haven't dated yet, I doubt we will ever see that renowned leg on television. A few years after the crossing scene, Sharon Stone suddenly collapsed with a brain hemorrhage that lasted for 9 days, giving her only a 1% chance of survival. A miracle occurred, but she lost everything she had, including her memory and her ability to walk. Her husband divorced her, she married someone else, and they fought for custody of their child. Hollywood abandoned her, turning her from the pinnacle of fame to the depths of loneliness. How did Sharon Stone rise from the ashes? This is a story that will surely make you feel something. Sharon Stone was born on March 10, 1958, in Mobile, Pennsylvania, a small town where life revolved around factories and endless fields. She was the second of 4 siblings and grew up in a modest home where her father, Joseph Stone, worked as a factory laborer and her mother, Dorothy, juggled being both an accountant and a homemaker. They weren't wealthy, but that wasn't the biggest issue from an early age. Sharon was different before her first birthday. She could walk, talk, and walk. Shortly after that, her peers recognized her extraordinary intelligence. She received an IQ of 154, identifying her as a true genius. Her peers teased her, calling her the strangest person. Sharon gradually came to terms with her loneliness, but the sense of alienation persisted. She was rejected by the outside world, but for years, her house was a much darker place. In order to survive, Sharon buried the memories deep and forced herself to forget as if they had never happened. However, pain like that never goes away, it only lies dormant waiting for the right moment to resurface. It wasn't until years later, through therapy, that the horrifying memories came flooding back like a long-buried nightmare in her memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice. Sharon lived in constant fear, haunted by a terrible secret she couldn't share with anyone. Her grandfather had abused her, turning her childhood into a long, painful existence filled with fear and anxiety. For the first time, Sharon revealed this terrifying truth: not only had she been abused, but she had also been threatened that her grandfather would kill her if she ever spoke out. As a child, she had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. Every night was a battle against terror. When her grandfather passed away, Sharon's grandmother did something that no one could have predicted. She locked the door and made Sharon and her sister stand and stare at his lifeless body. There was no explanation or tears, but the pain persisted. The scars of Sharon's childhood were exacerbated by her own father, Joseph Stone, who was a strict and disciplined man, but at the age of 14, Sharon decided she had had enough. She stood her ground, stared him in the eye, and asked, "Do you need to hit me again to feel like a man?" The words struck him like a shock wave. Joseph Stone froze, then broke down in tears. It was the first and last time Sharon ever saw her father that vulnerable. From that day forward he never laid a hand on his children again. Her childhood was also haunted by another torment at school. Despite excelling academically, she was ridiculed by classmates. No one truly wanted to be her friend. Her looks didn't conform to conventional beauty standards. In the eyes of others she was the ugly duckling. Then came another mark of fate, an accident that left a lasting impact. At 14, while horseback riding, Sharon was thrown violently from the saddle. When the panicked horse bolted forward, getting caught in a clothesline, she crashed hard onto the ground, suffering a severe neck injury. The pain lingered for years, a constant reminder of how fragile life could be. But despite all the wounds, Sharon pushed forward with academic excellence. At 15 she graduated high school early and earned a scholarship to Edinburgh University. Yet the moment she set foot on campus she realized she didn't belong there. She felt trapped in a life with no escape. Sharon Stone knew she had to leave Mobile if she wanted to change her life, but opportunities don't just present themselves, you have to choose to take advantage of them. Her first turning point was a beauty pageant, even though she had never considered herself a pageant girl. After receiving an offer to work as a model in New York, Sharon took the advice of her family and friends and entered a local competition. She didn't expect much, but to her surprise, she won that title. It wasn't just a meaningless sash, it was her ticket out of the small town. Sharon soon realized that the fashion industry was a cruel place, and she signed with a modeling agency, appearing in various magazines. but the job left her feeling empty as she stood in front of the camera wearing glitzy clothes, posing without expressing her feelings. She didn't just want to be a model, she wanted more acting. It was her new dream, but Hollywood wasn't accepting as she went to casting calls. She was informed she lacked the seductive allure required for a leading lady to directors at the time because she wasn't sexy enough, and rejection after rejection piled up. Sharon Stone was just a small-town girl with sharp features who lacked the softness needed to be a silver screen beauty, but if Hollywood was going to reject her for that, she would find a way to prove herself. Her first movie break came in 1980 when she landed a small part in Stardust Memories, which was directed by the legendary Woody. It was a brief appearance with no lines and nothing memorable, but for Sharon, it was a milestone because she had finally entered the field she had always wanted. Sharon Stone's life was drastically changed by Basic Instinct in ways she never could have predicted. Prior to that, she was only a mediocre actress who was never really considered a Hollywood star, but when she accepted the part of Catherine Trammell is an enigmatic, alluring, and crafty woman. The moment that rocked the world wasn't a startling plot surprise or incisive speech, rather, it was the most contentious part of the film. Sharon Stone went from being an unknown actress to a worldwide sex icon in an instant. A pivotal moment in film history occurred when Sharon Stone casually lifted her leg and crossed it in the opposite direction. The shot lasted only a few seconds, but it set Hollywood on fire. Catherine Trammell was sitting calmly in a small interrogation room, facing a group of detectives who were trying to pin a crime on her. She had piercing eyes and a defiant smirk, and she skillfully dodged their questions, turning the interrogation into a tense battle of wits. The scene, which was later rated the sexiest leg, was repeatedly played and became one of the most paused scenes in movie history. On-screen crossing in a V-pole not because of her acting, but rather because of an image she didn't even realize she had established. Once the movie came out, Sharon Stone's fame took off overnight. Sharon Stone claimed that she had been tricked into filming the scene. She remembered that before filming, director Paul Verhoeven had asked her to take off her pants, explaining that the white fabric reflected the light unnaturally on camera. He claimed that only a slight reflection of light would be seen and that nothing explicit would be shown. Sharon trusted the director, but when the test screening happened, she was shocked to see that the scene revealed much more than she had been told. Whether Sharon Stone agreed or not, that one scene became the turning point in her career and the shadow she would never be able to shake after Basic Instinct. Paul Verhoeven later denied all of the accusations, saying that Sharon knew exactly what was happening during the shoot. However, only those involved will ever know the truth. One of the most well-known actresses in the world, Sharon Stone quickly discovered that Hollywood primarily saw her as a sex symbol, so fame didn't come as she had imagined. Sharon realized that she needed to create her own opportunities if she wanted to be known as a professional actress. She started looking for parts that required more than just seduction and had more depth. In 1995, she received her first Oscar nomination for the movie Casino. Sharon's portrayal of Ginger McKenna, a woman who was not only seductive but also profoundly complicated and tragic, called for more than just good looks. It also called for emotional depth, psychological nuance, and genuine acting abilities. Hollywood had to admit that Sharon Stone was more than just a gorgeous face. She had genuine skill, but she needed more than one movie to completely shed her reputation. Lovelace 2013 was a pivotal year since she played Linda Lovelace's harsh, callous, and pitiful mother, a role that was entirely different from Catherine Trammell's glamorous gowns and alluring looks. In order to demonstrate that she could change into any character, Sharon Stone appeared on screen as a completely different person who had become hardened, severe, and cold. She also continued to push herself in television, playing a tough, decisive prosecutor in Law and Order, once more letting go of the sexy persona that had plagued her career for years as her career took off. Sharon Stone also reached another significant milestone in her life: marriage on August 18, 1984 She married Michael Greenberg, a well-known television producer. They met on the set of the Vegas Strip War, where Greenberg worked as a producer while Sharon starred in the film. Their relationship quickly developed, and before long they decided to tie the knot. At first it seemed like the perfect union, two people working in the same industry, sharing the same ambitions. However, the glamour of Hollywood changed everything. After 3 years together, they separated on January 20th. 1987. Although their marriage had ended, it took another 3 years for the divorce to be finalized. The exact reason for their breakup was never publicly disclosed, but many speculated that Sharon Stone, whose career was rapidly taking off, was unwilling to be tied down by married life. Michael Greenberg was an accomplished producer known for successful projects like MacGyver in Stargate SG-1. However, as Sharon's star continued to rise in Hollywood, the gap between their careers may have widened. Rumors swirled that Sharon prioritized her professional ambitions over her marriage, and as major opportunities kept coming her way, she refused to let anything hold her back. Following the divorce, Greenberg moved on with his life and career, eventually dating Nikki Smook and having 2 children with her. Meanwhile, Sharon continued forging her own path, one filled with unexpected turmoil. In 1992, as Basic Instinct catapulted Sharon Stone to the height of fame, she entered a new relationship with country music star Dwight Yoakam, a glamorous Hollywood actress and a rugged Western musician. Their pairing instantly became a media sensation. They made a striking appearance together at the 1992 Academy Awards, with Sharon donning. Dwight wore his trademark cowboy hat and wore an elegant blue velvet dress, but underneath the glamour, their relationship quickly soured and became one of Sharon Stone's greatest regrets. Nobody is certain of what drew. Although neither of them ever publicly acknowledged it, there were rumors that Sharon was too controlling and jealous, which made Dwight feel stifled. According to several sources, the romance quickly devolved into a nightmare. When looking back on the relationship years later, Sharon Stone made no effort to conceal her contempt. She once said that dating Dwight was the biggest mistake of her life, but that wasn't even her most shocking statement. In another instance, when asked about her romantic experience with Dwight, she made a cruel comment, saying that kissing him was like eating a dirt sandwich. The truth was undeniable: they parted ways under tense circumstances, leaving no respect for one another. When asked in a 1995 interview with the Orlando Sentinel if she really compared Dwight's kiss to a dirty sandwich, she made this official statement rather than merely making a light-hearted joke. Sharon made no hesitation. When asked about Sharon in an interview with the Los Angeles Times, Dwight Yoakam remained silent. His only response was, "I had just gotten out of a 5-year relationship and was emotionally clumsy. We dated." He gave a brief, detached response, no explanation, no emotion, as if their relationship had been nothing worth remembering. Neither of them publicly discussed the true reasons behind their split, but their reactions made it clear that this was a chapter they both wanted to bury in the past. Sharon Stone moved on with her single life, even trying to find love in later years through the dating app Bumble. After a 10-year relationship, Dwight Yoakam found stability in 2020 when he married photographer Emily Joyce. It's obvious that both Sharon Stone and Dwight Yoakam have moved on, but based on their responses to their failed romance, particularly Sharon's harsh words, it appears that this wasn't just another breakup but rather a chapter in her life filled with regret, and regrettably, it wouldn't be the last time Sharon Stone experienced relationships that caused her more suffering than joy. Sharon Stone and movie producer William J. McDonald started dating right away. Although this relationship seemed to be a more stable chapter in Sharon's love life, it ended with just as much drama as the previous one. This time, it wasn't just dating. They became engaged and seemed prepared to move on to marriage. The issue was not how their romance developed, but rather when he first met Sharon in 1993 while they were both working on the movie Silver, in which McDonald was a producer. It didn't take long for William McDonald to leave his wife for Sharon and publicly announce their relationship. When news of their engagement broke, not everyone was celebrating, especially McDonald's ex-wife Naomi McDonald, who instead called Sharon Stone a homewrecker in an interview on the tabloid show A Current Affair, saying that she's heartless and cruel. This quickly turned Sharon and William's relationship into a scandal, raising the inevitable question of whether this was true love or just an affair disguised as something legitimate. My Dream was stolen by Sharon Stone, who also took my husband. Her charges caused a media frenzy, placing Sharon under increasing pressure and public scrutiny. Given how swiftly everything happened from the time MacDonald left his wife to his engagement with Sharon, people had many reasons to be skeptical, but maybe Sharon wasn't the only one with ulterior motives in this relationship. Sharon Stone's spokesperson defended her, claiming that the actress hadn't been involved with MacDonald until after he filed for divorce. There was no specific evidence, but when a man leaves his wife after only 5 months of marriage to get engaged to a major movie star, it's difficult not to question his true intentions. Whatever the reason for their relationship, it didn't last long. Less than a year after their engagement, Sharon and William broke up in 1994, and if the way they got together was controversial, their breakup was even more bitter. William MacDonald wasn't just an ordinary producer, he undoed the power of fame. Being involved with the hottest Hollywood star at the time could have helped him advance his career or at the very least garner attention. In addition to calling off the engagement, Sharon Stone sent the engagement ring back via FedEx. This was a cold, decisive move that seemed to signal the end of this chapter in her life, and I quickly took advantage of the drama. Sharon's return of the ring was interpreted as a strong statement that demonstrated her lack of regret. Hollywood tabloids buzzed with speculation: had Sharon realized she was being used, or was she the one who chose to walk away having recognized that this wasn't the love she had hoped for? As for William J. MacDonald, he continued working in the film industry, but his name was no longer linked to Sharon Stone. And as for Sharon, after yet another highly publicized relationship, she moved on once more in search of real love. But sadly, the challenges in her romantic life were far from over by the time Sharon Stone turned 40. It seemed she had everything. She was one of Hollywood's most powerful actresses with an illustrious career, and now she had found love with Phil Bronstein, the executive editor of the San Francisco Examiner, who later led the San Francisco Chronicle. They met in the late 1990s, and Phil seemed like the perfect match for Sharon. He was intelligent, successful, handsome, and carried the allure of a powerful man. The two quickly became one of Hollywood's golden couples, attracting media attention whenever they appeared together. On February 14, 1998, they married in a lavish fairy tale-like wedding. The press dubbed it a dream romance, and for Sharon it marked a new chapter, the beginning of the family happiness she had always longed for. But behind the glamorous facade she endured both physical and emotional agony throughout her years with Bronstein. Sharon had always wanted to have a biological child, but her body betrayed her. She suffered from an autoimmune disease and endometriosis, making it impossible for her to carry a pregnancy to term. Over the years she endured 9 miscarriages. Each pregnancy brought a spark of hope, only to end in blood and tears. She went through excruciating pain, countless sleepless nights spent crying in silence, moments of joy at seeing the red lines on a pregnancy test, only to watch it all slip away. She held on to hope, but each loss shattered her a little more. Eventually Sharon and Phil decided to adopt. In 2000 they welcomed Ran Joseph Bronstein, a beautiful baby boy with big round eyes. He became the single brightest light in Sharon's life. At that time, from the outside, it looked like Sharon Stone had found her happy ending: a small but perfect family, a successful husband, and a son she adored. But fate wouldn't allow her to hold on to that happiness for long. It all began with what seemed like a harmless sign. During a trip to Milan, Italy, while attending a prestigious fashion show, Sharon Stone was suddenly struck by a splitting headache, like a blow straight to the skull. The whole room erupted into chaos as medical staff rushed towards her voices and called out, but Sharon Stone was unable to respond, move, or control her own body. A few days later, back in the U.S., the real nightmare began. One evening at home, when an excruciating pain struck without warning, like a bolt of lightning tearing through her body. No prelude, no signs of caution, just an unrelenting storm inside her skull that sent her flying backward off the sofa. The terrifying pressure that surged from the base of her neck spread across her head as if an invisible force was crushing her skull from within. No one believed it was anything serious, thinking it was a headache, or simply exhaustion from the schedule. She felt as though Zeus himself had thrown a thunderbolt at her, as every nerve in her body screamed in agony, as if her brain were being torn apart from the inside. She struggled to breathe, to call for help, but no sound came out of her throat. When she opened her eyes, she saw a strange scene: flashing ceiling lights, blurry figures moving frantically around her, and she was lying on a stretcher being wheeled down a cold hospital corridor. The wheels screeched against the floor, and no one was explaining what was happening to her. She couldn't recall anything. Everything was broken up. For 9 days, Sharon had been suffering from a brain hemorrhage. During that time, blood silently flooded her back, head, face, and spine, shattering everything into pieces that she couldn't put back together. The pain was unfathomable, and every second that went by brought her closer to death. Doctors debated in front of her, their voices rushed and tense, and they discussed brain surgery and the possibility of removing a portion of her skull, which carried unimaginable risks. However, no one informed her if she would survive the operation, and she had an unshakable nightmare in which she saw death looming over her, and she felt its presence so close that she could be next. Her mother, whispering into the phone with the last of her remaining power. "Mom, I'm having a brain hemorrhage on the other end." Her mother responded with just 4 words, "I'm coming, I love you." The call ended and Sharon Stone knew she was standing at the final threshold between life and death. Amidst the unbearable pain as everything blurred around her, she saw the light. It wasn't like the sterile glow of hospital lights, it was warmer, more radiant, more peaceful. A soothing sensation washed over her as if she was being led somewhere else. The pain faded, the fear disappeared, but then something held her back. In that hazy glow a familiar image appeared. Her little son ran. He looked at her, eyes filled with innocence, too young to understand what was happening but old enough to know that he needed his mother. She couldn't leave, she wouldn't leave her son behind. When Sharon Stone opened her eyes after the horrifying nightmare, she thought she had defeated death, but she had no idea that the real battle was only just beginning. She left the hospital frail, pale, and so emaciated that she barely recognized herself. In the mirror, 18% of her body mass was gone. Her right leg dragged behind her, too weak to support her weight. Her hands trembled so violently that she couldn't even write her own name. She lost the ability to read, stuttered uncontrolled, and couldn't control her own speech. Her memory was nearly wiped clean. Every day became a chaotic cycle of forgetting everything and desperately trying to relearn it all from scratch. She sought help, but there were no recovery programs for what she was going through. There was no therapy to help her walk normally again, no treatment to stop her from stuttering, no insurance to cover the years of rehabilitation she would need, but she refused to give up. Day by day Sharon Stone retrained herself. She learned to write her name from zero, practice speaking in front of a mirror, one painstaking syllable at a time, battling her own brain to reclaim what had been taken from her. She spoke with neurologists, searching for ways to stimulate her mind, strengthening every muscle, every reflex, no matter how small. She fought for herself hour by hour, second by second. She recalled Str encounter with a Buddhist monk who told her, "You have been reincarnated into your own body." That sentence haunted her. She truly felt as if she had died and been reborn, but as a completely different person. Her sense of smell, sight, and touch had all changed. For years she couldn't read books, couldn't process the world the way she once had. It took 7 long years for Sharon Stone to fully recover, but just as she was starting to rise again, life delivered another brutal blow. Lying in her hospital bed, Sharon Stone believed she still had a family. She was waiting for her to return, and she believed that Phil Brunstein, the man she had married in 1998, would be there to support her through the darkest days of her life. However, as soon as she got home, still weak and frail, she received the heartbreaking news that Phil Brunstein had filed for divorce. The shock was too much to handle, and while she was relearning how to walk, talk, and write, she discovered that the man she had once trusted had already moved on to someone else. On top of that, he sued her for full custody of their son. Sharon couldn't understand that the man who had promised to love her through illness and adversity was now the one driving her further into despair, but she was too weak to defend herself in court. She was too tired to face an army of lawyers, and ultimately she lost everything. Sharon was granted only limited visitation rights. She was shattered in court. The judge asked Rand, "Do you know your mother starred in an adult-rated film?" That question stabbed straight into Sharon's heart. She was deemed an unfit mother because of a film she had made a decade ago. A mere 16th of a second of nudity and Basic Instinct had cost her her child. She couldn't believe that in a world where nudity on television had become normalized, she was still being punished for a scene from years past. And it didn't end there. The judge further accused her of being overly sensitive about Ron's health, citing an absurd claim that she had suggested Botox injections for his feet to prevent odor, a baseless allegation that Sharon vehemently denied. But it was too late. In 2008 she lost the custody battle. Ron remained with Brunstein, And Sharon was pushed out of her own son's life in just a few short years. The woman who once had everything had lost her husband, her child, her family, but the nightmare still wasn't over. While drowning in grief over losing her son, she discovered her bank account was empty. The $18 million she had spent a lifetime earning gone. Her refrigerator, her phone, everything was under someone else's name. Sharon Stone was left with nothing now. She had only one choice: to be destroyed forever or rise and take it all back. If losing custody of her son was the greatest emotional pain of Sharon Stone's life, then being cast aside by Hollywood was the final blow to her career. Once an A-list actress, the directors and producers who had once pursued Sharon and referred to her as their muse wanted nothing to do with her anymore, and when she attempted to look for new opportunities, she was met with chilly, unyielding rejections. Sharon quickly realized that no one was waiting for her return, and the influx of film offers and lucrative contracts that had once lined up at her door all disappeared without a trace. "We need a younger face since you're too old to be a starring lady and no longer a box office attraction." In addition to being passed over for opportunities, Sharon was also made fun of by the media and her peers, who derided her downfall by calling her a faded-out sex symbol and a former star whose light had gone out. The few roles she was given were unmemorable and unimportant, and they did nothing to help her career. In an attempt to stay relevant, Sharon took any scripts that came her way, but this only made her a further failure in Hollywood. Criticism of Catwoman 2004, a box office failure. It was thought that Sharon's nasty character was weak and absurd. Basic Instinct 2, 2006, a monumental failure yet a last-ditch effort to regain glory. The movie was criticized for being outmoded and useless, and it ended up being one of the decade's biggest failures. In the years that followed, none of her films really succeeded, despite her continuing to work on lesser projects. Bobby, 2006, was a well-received movie, but her role was too tiny to have a significant impact on her career. Sharon Stone was no longer a star. "I want my career back." In an interview with The Times, Sharon admitted, "I still haven't regained my acting career. I desperately want to work again as an actress, not just playing weak, ridiculous, meaningless roles." She had done everything to reclaim her place in the industry, yet Hollywood had slammed the door shut in her face. "I was shocked that I couldn't continue to work well. I did everything I could to give my best." The Guardian 2024. But after years of fighting to reclaim herself, Sharon Stone realized one thing: Hollywood may have abandoned her, but she would never abandon herself. She found a new path, not on the silver screen but in art. She began showcasing her paintings in a San Francisco gallery, proving that she didn't need Hollywood to shine. She also dedicated herself to helping women, particularly those marginalized and wounded by society. From an outcast actress, Sharon Stone reinvented herself as an inspiration, but no matter how strong she became, there was one lingering ache she couldn't shake. "I truly want to get back what I once had. I want my real career back. I desperately want to reclaim my life." Can Sharon Stone make Hollywood see her again? That answer is yet to be written, but one thing is certain: she has never stopped hoping. Sharon Stone once stood at the pinnacle of Hollywood, then was cast into the depths of despair. She lost everything: her health, her fame, her family, her career. But like a phoenix, she refused to be buried in the ashes of her past. She didn't beg Hollywood for a second chance, didn't seek pity. She rebuilt herself. The first years after her stroke were a battle for survival. No one helped her, no one believed she could come back. Hollywood turned its back, the public forgot her, but she never allowed herself to surrender. Step by step she relearned how to walk, how to speak, how to write, fighting tirelessly to reclaim what was taken from her 7 long agonizing years. But when she finally stood back up, she was stronger than ever. But Sharon Stone's rebirth was not just for herself. She rebuilt her family, adopting 2 more. Once a mother who had lost her kid, Quinn Kelly became a strong pillar for 3 children. She didn't need Hollywood's approval or the title of sex symbol to define herself. She was a mother, a warrior, and a survivor, and she didn't stop there. Though standing up for others came with a cost, Sharon Stone used her fame to change the world when Hollywood was ready to throw her out. She became one of the most well-known advocates in the fight against HIV/AIDS, raising over $34 million for medical research, building schools, helping homeless children, and fighting for those who had no voice. Hollywood branded her as difficult, but this time she no longer needed their approval. She had once fought for her own survival, now she fought to make the world better. Hollywood once saw Sharon Stone as nothing more than a sex symbol, then tossed her aside when no longer needed her, but they forgot one thing: she was never just a symbol, she was a fighter. Sharon Stone had once lost everything, but now she no longer needed to reclaim what was lost, because she had been reborn stronger, more purposeful, and more powerful than ever. Sharon Stone is no longer the woman abandoned by Hollywood or just a relic of a past sex symbol. At 67 she has returned to the screen with a new identity, deeper, stronger, and no longer confined to the image that once defined her. After all the glory, losses and falls, she has found a new chapter in life, one of independence, art and true peace. In 2024 Sharon made her comeback with the film What About Love, where she played Linda Tarleton, but she didn't stop there. In 2025 she will appear in two major projects, Nobody 2 as Lena and In Memoriam as Vicky, both currently in post-production. These projects not only showcase her persistence in the film industry but also prove that Hollywood can't ignore Sharon Stone forever. However, acting is no longer her soul. While she once used her body and expressions to create cinematic masterpieces, she now uses a paintbrush to tell her stories in a more profound, personal, and liberating way. Focus painting has become an integral part of her life, and her works have been exhibited in major cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Beverly. She will soon have an exhibition at ARA Passes Rome, one of the most prestigious art venues in the world. In November 2024, Sharon Stone received the Stella Della Award at the 42nd Turin Film Festival, acknowledging her enormous contributions to cinema. This event wasn't just another significant milestone in her career, it was a testament to her tenacity as a woman who had previously been shunned by Hollywood. Sharon Stone's rebirth is evident not only in her artwork but also in her public appearances. On the red carpet, she stood tall and reclaimed her legacy by captivating the audience in a gorgeous red gown designed by Tony Ward and a cape embroidered with 3,000 organza flowers. She didn't follow trends, instead, she embodied the moment. A few months later, in January 2025, Sharon made headlines once more with her stunning appearance at the 82nd Golden Globes. Her participation was more than just a fashion statement, it was a strong statement. After everything she has been through, Sharon Stone has discovered that happiness does not lie in fame or love. She is no longer lonely because her life is already complete in its own right. She no longer needs a man by her side to feel complete because her life is already complete in its own way. Spirituality has also become a guiding force in her life, and she believes that her late father is still with her, a presence so strong that she is convinced. According to Sharon Stone, souls never really go away since the universe is larger than we realize and certain relationships last a lifetime. Today, she lives by a straightforward but profound philosophy that is unbreakable by time or geography. Sharon Stone is not just a former Hollywood superstar or just the sex icon who once dazzled the world, she is a phoenix reborn strong. She doesn't wait for luck or dwell on the past, instead, she creates her own happiness every single day, little by little. Unstoppable and unbreakable, Sharon Stone went from being a sensual icon limited to provocative roles to a woman who lost everything, her career, fame, family, and health, to a warrior who defied fate with sheer determination. Today, people no longer remember Sharon Stone as the seductive queen of the nines, instead, they see her as a symbol of resilience and a spirit that refuses to give up in the face of adversity. She lost everything, but instead of collapsing, she reclaimed herself and rewrote her own story. Her story is not just a Hollywood actress, it is a testament to struggle, perseverance, and an unwavering desire to never give up. If she was able to do it, why can't you like, share, and subscribe to continue reading inspirational tales of legends who refuse to fade away?